All right, let's start with building commission and then go to planning commission.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, page 36 in your packet.
Hello. How y'all doing?
Good, thank you for being flexible and coming in early, we appreciate it.
Yeah, need some quick calls here, move some things around, no problem.
All right, well, Travis, if you want to go through your budget, highlight any changes that you've made and just any other notes that you want the council to be aware of.
Okay. Not a lot of changes, pretty simple, two budgets. And you said you were on what, Keely Plan Commission? Or were we on, what'd you say?
Do
Building, okay.
building first, yes.
Okay. The only changes there would be, let's see, building commissioner and second deputy. That would also will be the same for the zoning department. I asked for 5% for both of us. That would be the only change there. And then also, I asked for, requested 500 for fuel additional.
And Travis, did you add a staff member?
One, yes.
This is not Courtney, this is somebody else?
No, that is Courtney.
The, Todd, you want to speak on that? The assistant?
Yeah, what's the assistant building commissioner?
Well, that's pretty simple.
Do you have a new staff person that you've added, Travis? No? Did you add a staff person, Todd?
Yes. His workload, well, I don't know if any of you get out and drive around the countryside, but if you don't think that he needs some extra help, then I guess you're blind. Because we got some major problems out here in the county. And due to no fault of Travis's, one man can only do so much. Plain and simple, we've got major violations. Major violations. And then society has changed and there's this big fad of tiny homes. Well, we're not even sure if anybody can define a tiny home without getting too far into the weeds and not rambling on for 15 or 20 minutes. The basic gist of it is that, you know, you've got 3 or 4 different types of dwellings. You've got a stick-built home, you've got a mobile home which requires a HUD sticker that basically says it is legally a living dwelling that you can live in. Well, when people are trying to live in camper trailers, which is a pull-type trailer that requires a license, it's not legal to live in that. That's not our rules, and here's what a lot of people don't understand. These aren't our rules, and they're not stringent. He is only trying to enforce the bare minimums required by the state of Indiana. They expect us to enforce these bare minimums. None of our rules and regulations in the county go over and above or are any more stringent than what the state of Indiana says. And that in itself, just enforcing the bare minimums, is become so overwhelming because there are so many violations. And we have people that, I don't know what it's going to take to educate people. It's almost like when he goes out and informs these people that you can't live in a storage building because it is a threat to your life. Children, there's one way in, one way out, it's a fire hazard. Not sitting on a foundation, sitting on bare dirt. It's a health hazard. And I won't even get into the septic issues.
So Todd, would this position help with enforcement? I mean, is this a recommendation of the plan commission? Or is this recommendation of the commissioners?
All the above.
So the plan commission would like to see an additional staff member, and the commissioners would like to see an additional staff member in Travis's office?
Unless you want this county turned into a dump, yes.
So Travis, how does that help your workload? How will that affect your office functions if there's another staff person added? Is this a necessary position? Is this, tell us your thoughts on this.
I agree with Todd, what he's saying. Yeah, you're gonna have to probably have someone else. We haven't really been able to talk about it a lot yet, but if this person, I would help them, give them whatever direction they needed. I mean, I know it's gonna be all dedicated towards enforcement. That new individual, that new employee or what have you. I think it needs to go in a little bit different direction to maybe prevent a lot of things in enforcement getting to my office. If it was restructured that this person was doing something a little bit different on the enforcement end of it before it gets to me, I think that in turn would cut my workload down, yes. Now what that ends up being, I don't know. Where the bottleneck is right now, I can build a case quicker right now than the attorneys can push them through. So that's, in my opinion, that's where some of this money needs to go. It's no fault to whatever attorney's there. You've only got so much time. Everybody knows it takes so long, these cases, to get through court.
Who is the attorney?
Right now, it's Lisa Fleming. It used to be John Dietrich.
Okay, so it's not the county attorney, it is
No.
a separate attorney?
No.
Okay.
Now, I got a question. This wouldn't be taken on like, it'd just be our county, not taken on a town like Pekin.
All incorporated areas, yes. What I know, yes. That's all I'm talking about is in unincorporated areas.
Right.
So you're not talking about people? Okay.
I'm not.
Okay, so that's a really good question because I have been approached by the town of Pekin asking about their enforcement and needing help with their enforcement just to meet those state standards. And, has there been clarification on what the county's jurisdiction is in some of those areas? Some of the language I've seen says that it does cover some of those incorporated areas, whereas there's conflicting information out there. So, I think about a town like Livonia. There is no way that the town of Livonia can hire an enforcement officer to do zoning, or Hardensburg, or any of those other smaller communities. And Pekin's even having a hard time with their own enforcement. So would this person assist at all in those areas at all? Do we have any plan in the future for the?
Could I address that just a minute?
Yes.
We are still in the, I guess you'd call it talking, we're really not even negotiating. It has been mentioned that there is a desire from the town of Pekin that we take over the building commissioner duties because they don't have the means to hire someone with the expertise that, say, someone like Travis does. And I was told by them, and this is still on the table, it's up for consideration, that there may be a possibility that we might consider taking over their duties, and it would not, I want to stress this, it would not include code enforcement. In other words, violations. It would only include inspections on new structures, and they have about, on the average, we'll say half a dozen a year. So they're still thinking, we're still thinking.
Okay.
We're not, personally, I'm not 100% sure what this additional employee, 100% what they would be doing, other than the way I see it, it would just make sense. They start out helping Travis by helping with code enforcement, because right now that is the biggest, one of the biggest issues is all the violations. Public safety. Public safety. And then they would eventually work into learning Travis's job, because Travis is only going to be around another 15 or 20 years. Right?
I don't know about the 20, but go ahead.
So, you know, it would be nice to have someone who is ready to hit the ground running and step up when the day comes that Travis decides he's, you know, going to retire.
I think one thing that might help explain part of this, as a member of the planning commission, you know, we've talked about there's so many more things that could and are happening in our county, as far as like Todd mentioned with the tiny homes. These are things that we didn't see as much in the past, but it's increasingly important to limit those infractions, and it just spreads Travis awfully thin with all these newer things that are coming about. There are also other issues, like, you know, recently we were talking about solar farms, solar additions. That's a big thing right now in Indiana. One of the counties up north just put in a huge solar field, and these are things that could come to Washington County, being a rural county and lots of land space. So I think to reiterate what Todd said, the problem is as these things develop and we move forward, I think it's going to get to the point where he's just not out here inspecting new homes, new confined feeding operations, those kind of things. These other things are going to stretch him so thin that I don't know that he's going to have enough time to continue to properly do his job, with the addition of these things that could come about as we, you know, move forward and different things are changing in the county. But just the tiny homes in themselves, and I didn't realize there was that many of them either until we started talking about it, and Travis has brought it to our
So how
attention.
many have we got?
Oh,
Nobody knows.
we don't know, because there's a lot of them that aren't permitted, you know, they don't go through that process and come and see him. They just go out here, they buy not to say they're all Miller mini barns, but if you drive through the county, you will see these things in a lot of different
Maybe I
places.
start a business of building mini barns.
Yes.
Bruce,
They're calling mini barns, yes, but it has become a big issue, and I think Travis can attest to that these things are popping up everywhere. And as Todd mentioned, that, you know, a lot of it's a health concern, it's a safety concern. People are living in those without proper electricity, water, sewage.
Just meeting the general standards. the
Yes.
standards.
Not only just living in them, but they're also renting them out.
They're also renting,
Right.
yes, that's happening as well. So I think
Airbnbs,
that's,
different things.
I think that's part of the direction that they're going here with him being able to properly do what needs to be done, just for the
Well, I'll
sake
tell you
of
what I
the county.
haven't heard. I'm sitting here listening to, we have a need, okay? we don't really we haven't talked about it enough to get a plan together to create an approach for this need. We're still in them stages of talking about it. And here again, they're out there everywhere, but we don't have the help to even go count them. We don't know what's going on, but we're gonna hire a person, put them in a position, and what is it we're gonna do?
Enforce state law, minimum state laws.
Okay? That person's gonna know and understand all those state laws. No, he's gonna work with this man, put a greater burden on him,
He's gonna
while
train.
all training him to get him useful, or her, or whomever, to do these things. I'm just sitting there thinking, and I'm not getting it just yet. But Travis, you kind of pointed out a while ago. You said this person would come in, and you said help with codes, and those are pretty well defined. So there's not a lot of gray there. Be a good place to start, I guess. But how long will it take you, with whomever's involved, to put a plan together to come up with a job description for this individual?
About 5 minutes.
Start.
The plan is already in place.
Okay?
The reason the plan is in place, because the workload is already there.
So do you have a job description put together, Travis, for this position? Okay. Point well taken, Ben. I think that's something for all of us to consider. I do want to, just going back a couple of years, we did hire somebody in the office to help offset your workload. So it would be helpful, I think, for all of us on the council, one, to remember that, but two, talk about what changes have taken place since hiring somebody else in the office, and has that reduced your workload, the paperwork aspect of that, what Courtney has been doing, and then, where is that gap? And hiring her, was that not far-sighted? Was that nearsighted? Did we not think about some things? Because we did just add somebody to help, and it wasn't that long ago, that we added somebody to help ease your workload.
That's an easy one. She's come in, she's doing basically all the phone calls that come in and all the permit process. All that just, that was a big part of it right there. So she is doing that. I'm out in the field more.
Okay.
So, that was easy. But I want to make a couple comments, just jumping back on the Pekin situation. When I talked with them, their big concern was the mini barns.
Yes.
They wanted someone down to enforce the mini barns. But what we keep forgetting is, we can go around and we can write everybody up and, like I said, build these cases. But till you act, and just be honest, just like, let's say the Pekin situation, that's what I explained to them. Okay, fine, I can go through and I can build a case, whatever. If they're not going to comply, and I can go through and list all the violations, and we can go through the proper procedures, what the certified mails, all, I think it's 3 sets of letters that we send out, 3 violation letters. If nothing happens, you're still going to have to take it to court. You're still going to have to put it in front of a judge to get the enforcement done. Okay, so see, that's what you're into. So yeah, I can run down there, make 2 or 3 trips, knock on some doors, put it all together, but you're still, when it comes down to you're going to have other enforcement than us just driving around writing stuff up.
Question, Mark. Have we run some cases through the court
Yes.
system? How many have we run through today?
Now, I'm just going to say when John was in there, because John, he had to move on to another position there in January. But we had 10 right there at the first. We've got a bunch of it pending. The first 10 we've done, they all went in Washington County's favor. 10 out of 10.
For what period of time? For what period of time?
I think the first one went in, it was June of last year,
Okay.
and then I think his time was over about January. So we had 10 in that span,
6 months or something.
in 6 months.
Okay.
And I looked up the numbers, it was about what we had paid out, and it was 9,200.
Well, this is something I think might require additional conversation, so we might call you back to talk more about that particular position. We have a lot to consider in this budget time, especially with inflation and thinking about our staff and making sure that we all are, that we do take care of the people that are here now, like yourself and the rest of your office. So with that, let's move on to the Planning Commission.
I want to say one other thing about
Yes.
town keeping too. I also mentioned the thing, if their biggest concern was just mini farms, and that seemed to be their biggest concern. I mentioned to them, why don't you all get with these other towns? If it's something as small as that, maybe running down there maybe once a month, if the town of Pekin could put in a little bit of money, and it could be on just per inspection. Pekin, Martinsburg, Livonia, Little York, all of those could I suggested getting together and get on the same page. And you could hire, you could get one person maybe part-time to do that. Because all of their needs are basically the same. The towns are about the same, except for people. The towns are about the same. And and I'd be glad to give that person guidance if you had any questions or whatever needed to be. And then if the need arose, instead of having somebody full-time or even 20 hours a week where they were coming in and nothing was going on, something happens, give that person a call, and then he could go to these small towns. And just you'd have one person for all the small towns, but that was just an idea, I just threw that out to them. And I said I would assist them, no problem, help them out. But
You know, I ought to know this, that we have the Association of Counties, we got commissioners, we got every office holder. Trustees have is there such a thing as an association for small towns?
Yes, cities and towns, so it's called AIM. Yes, it's called Accelerating Indiana Municipalities.
Because I think you made a good point
Yeah,
that they could get.
I would say our smaller towns are probably not involved.
Well, you're probably right.
They're probably not involved, but that would be a great,
Nothing else?
that would be a great resource though.
You mean the ones without elected boards?
With that, let's move on to the Planning Commission budget. All right, Travis, you have an increase in some salaries, and a little bit increase in the attorney. Do you have anything else you want to add on that budget?
it was just 5% for those 3 positions.
Okay, and at the time this report was pulled, your expenditures for your general expenses was at 0. Do you expect to spend that down, that line item?
Well, see, we don't know what comes up, if,
Okay.
you just don't know. I mean, I like to see that there, I think it was 14,000, I think, at one time.
Okay,
So we brought it down.
it's on an as-needed basis, it's not something that you can really
If
plan
you need a
for.
consultant or something would come up, a situation, there it is.
Okay, so it's that, basically when you have a consultant come in, is that what
Usually-
KK was paid out of?
Sometimes, yeah, we've paid other things out of that,
Okay,
it's just kind of a little safety net there instead of having 0.
okay. Council, do you have any questions on this budget? All right, hearing none, I'll release you. We do have an opening, we have a blank schedule for Thursday, so if we have additional questions, we'll call you back in on Thursday.
Okay. We had, I ran the numbers real quick. Usually you all ask about this. At the end of June, just for the unincorporated area for residential,
Yes,
first appraisal went through for our development was $18,779,850.
that's all a new build,
That's
new build
new, that's
residential?
new, new residential construction, first appraisal.
And that was for last year?
this year,
That's for the,
January through June
oh, okay.
2020.
What was that number?
18,779,850. 6 months.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Travis.
All right, very good. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, with that, I think, so we've gotten a little ahead of